Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Ibrahim with student ID number 4414200013, and I'm from Chemistry Education A. On this occasion, I will explain about the synthesis of urea hydrogen peroxide and for module 5. Title: Synthesis of Urea Hydrogen Peroxide and Objective: Student can study synthesis of urea hydrogen peroxide crystal qualitative analysis. MC Literature Review. Crystal is the arrangement of atoms organized in three-dimensional space. The regularity of the arrangement occurs because it must fulfill the geometrical condition, the provision of the bonding of atoms, and the arrangement of the meeting. Although it is not easy to express how the atoms are arranged in a solid, but there are things that could be an important factor that determines the formation of polyhedra coordination arrangement of atoms. Ideally, the most stable arrangement is polyhedra coordination that allow the energy per unit volume at a minimum. The process of forming a crystal structure, known as crystallization, although the cooling process often produces a crystalline material. Under certain circumstances, the liquid can freeze in non-crystalline form. Many of these cases occur due to cooling too quickly so that the atoms cannot reach its lattice site. A non-crystalline material commonly called amorphous or glassy material. Although such material is sometimes also referred to as an amorphous solid. Although there are distinct differences between solid and gases, the formation process does not release heat melting glass type. For this reason, many scientists consider glassy material as liquid, not solid. The method, tools and materials. Tools category 1 and a beaker glass, test tube rack, stative, funnel, pipette drop pipette, watch glass, glass stirrer, and for tool category 2 and hot plate and analytical balance. And materials, 1 specific materials and hydrogen peroxide, mangan dioxide, urea, potassium permanganate, sulfuric acid, and general materials and aqueous and filter paper. And next, experimental word scheme, synthesis urea hydrogen peroxide. And start 1. Weighing the solid urea and put into a beaker, and 2. Measure 15 ml hydrogen peroxide, 30% solution and put into 100 ml Erlenmeyer. And 3. Put the hydrogen peroxide solution that has been measured gathered into Erlenmeyer containing urea solid dissolved. And 4. Heating an Erlenmeyer that has been filled with a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and urea in a water bed. And 5. Heating a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and concentrate urea which is located in a petri dish placed on a beaker filled with 50 ml of tap water. And last, weighing the obtained needle crystal. And product 1.0468 grams and finish. And work scheme to qualitative analysis. Start 1. Weigh 0.1 grams of the synthesis crystal. 2. Put in a test tube and dissolve it with 3 ml of water. And 3. Add the manganese oxide solid to the test tube and observe the oxygen gas bubble that are formed. And product, the solution turn black and a little bubble formed and finish. Result and discuss. 1. Result and A. Synthesis of urea hydrogen peroxide. Treatment 1. Weighing the solid urea and put into beaker. And observation, urea weight 1.2 grams. And 2. Treatment, measure 15 ml hydrogen peroxide, 30% solution and put into 100 ml Erlenmeyer. And observation, volume 15 ml and colorless solution. And 3. Treatment, but the hydrogen peroxide solution that has been measured gathered into Erlenmeyer containing urea solid dissolved. And observation, white in color and soluble. And for treatment, heating an airline layer that has been filled with a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and urea in water bath and observation clear bed concentrate solution. And 5. Heating a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and concentrate urea which is located in a petri dish placed on a beaker filled with 50 ml of tap water. And observation, needle crystal formed in a petri dish. And 6. Weighing the obtained needle crystal. And observation, 1.0468 gram crystal. And result for B. Qualitative analysis. 1. Treatment. Weighing 0.1 grams the synthesis crystal and observation 0.1 grams crystal. And 2. Put in a test tube and dissolve it with 3 ml water. And observation, the solution is homogeneous and white in color. And 3. Add the manganese oxide solid to the test tube and observation, the solution color in black and a little bubble form. And 2. Discussion. Urea hydrogen peroxide is a compound that is odorless and non-toxic. Urea hydrogen peroxide solution is very unstable and quickly breaks down into a part-time contact with saliva. Urea hydrogen peroxide has an active hydrogen equivalent to 3.5% hydrogen peroxide. Urea itself is easy to move freely. Urea hydrogen peroxide is a solid composition of urea and hydrogen peroxide. This compound is a white solid crystal that dissolves in water, often called carbamide peroxide in the field of dentistry, which is used as a wither of hydrogen peroxide. This disinfection adds urea hydrogen peroxide is substances that are soluble in water, odorless, intangible, needles, crystal. As for the structure of the urea hydrogen peroxide is picture 1, structure urea hydrogen peroxide compounds. And next, urea is an anorganic compound composed of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen with formula. Hydrogen peroxide is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen with concentration such as the kind that is found in the home. It's widely used as a disinfectant of and antiseptic. In this experiment, namely the synthesis of urea hydrogen peroxide by reacting urea and hydrogen peroxide. As for the step to synthesis urea hydrogen peroxide by crystal formation, we have urea hydrogen peroxide and prove the crystal from urea hydrogen peroxide to see the presence of hydrogen peroxide using qualitative tests. 1. Synthesis of urea hydrogen peroxide. The synthesis of urea hydrogen peroxide is carried out using 3.4 ml of hydrogen peroxide which react with 1.2 grams of urea solid. Then the mixture inside the airline layer is heated in a water bath until the solution turns clear. The purpose of heating is to increase the temperature in the solution so as to accelerate the reaction between hydrogen peroxide and the solid of urea, thus forming a homogeneous solution. Then the solution is transferred into the white glass. While being held with a low temperature, it's aimed to accelerate the solvent evaporation process to accelerate the formation of urea hydrogen peroxide crystal. So urea hydrogen peroxide crystal are formed, which are in the form of needle crystal. The urea hydrogen peroxide crystal product are 1.0468 grams. And next, urea hydrogen peroxide crystal have advantages over hydrogen peroxide. Where are the hydrogen peroxide crystal has oxidizing properties similar to urea, and urea hydrogen peroxide is more stable than hydrogen peroxide. This is because in urea hydrogen peroxide compounds there are hydrogen bonds in the presence of both these hydrogen cause the binding energy of each atom in the urea hydrogen peroxide to increase, which make urea hydrogen peroxide compound stable. While the compound hydrogen peroxide is not present hydrogen bonds, so the bonds between atoms in the compounds hydrogen peroxide are weaker and hydrogen peroxide compounds are easily decomposed to hydrogen, water compounds, and oxygen. And two, qualitative analysis. Qualitative testing is a test that aims to test the existence of an element in a sample or the presence or absence of compounds in a sample. In the qualitative test, the synthesis crystals were completely dissolved in 25 milli of water. This is because urea compounds and hydrogen peroxide compounds dissolve well in water and hydrogen bonds will occur. When the addition of manganese oxide, blackish color, is in a gas bubble formed in the test tube. This can be the presence of gas or water on the test tube while and the presence of gas bubble contained in the solution. The purpose of adding manganese oxidation is to catalyze the composition of hydrogen and oxygen so that oxygen gas is formed in the test tube. The solution turns black and there is an oxygen gas bubble. F. Conclusion. From the urea hydrogen peroxide synthesis experiment, the crystal mass of urea hydrogen peroxide is 1.0468 grams. In the qualitative analysis, the result obtained where the solution is black and bubble of oxygen gas as formed and percent urea hydrogen peroxide synthesis from the experiment is 58%. That's the presentation of the material for module 5 entitled synthesis of urea hydrogen peroxide. Sorry if there are misspelling. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.